What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright. I am joined by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing?
Steve, I am doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. I can't complain. Did you hear of the great internet outage in Canada?
I did not. North of the wall, we had some spotty internet, it sounds like.
Yeah, so like the biggest provider went down on Friday overnight, like midnight. They went down. I think it was like 2 a.m. or something. But everything. So they got cell phones, they got TV, and then internet. It all went down, like to the point where they couldn't call 911. So there's gonna be an investigation because that's against the law here. So that happened, and it was down for like a full 24 hours. The like primary like debit card technology goes through them, so you couldn't use your debit cards. Depending on the store you went in, you couldn't use your credit cards either. ATMs were down all over the place. A lot of e-bike rentals and like different things that used apps to grab a service you couldn't use. It was craziness.
It sounds like chaos for sure. Jeez.
Yeah, it was something else. It was different. So yeah, no TV, no internet, no phone, no nothing for the whole day.
And so it sounds like it's like the biggest provider, but like, is it like 55%? Is it 85% of the country?
I don't know
is there
the
like
percentage.
Another decent sized one that seems to be still running?
There is a Bell, and they were good. They had a couple issues, like in my area, they had issues, but they were fine. I'm not sure what the split is. Maybe it's 55. That would probably be fair. 55.
It still is like a large chunk though, or the majority.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that's a crazy weekend. Mine was just as exhilarating, but in a better way. I was at Hershey Park here in right near Harrisburg in Pennsylvania, so hitting some roller coasters. So my adrenaline was up, but probably not for the same reasons most of the people there in Canada were.
Very true. Yes, quite different, but a fun time.
Fun time nonetheless, and which is what we're aiming to have here today. Another fun time.
Yeah, we promised a 14-team draft.
We did. We're both terrified because these are very difficult drafts to do, and as we were hype on how good your team looks on a 10 team, it usually ends up being the opposite here on a 14 team.
Yeah, and it's our first one of the year, so it's not like we've had any real practice with them either. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think we took our normal roster format and just removed one flex spot. Is that right?
Yes, we've got just a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 full flex, and then I believe we have 6 bench spots.
Okay, perfect. And then I am drafting out of the 7 spot. Will, you're drafting out of the 13 spot. I'm going to have to scroll back and forth here.
I saw that's a little bit of a scroll, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a little big.
You get 13 teams on one page, not 14.
Yeah, see, I can only get 12.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's a little worse, but it's fine. Whatever. We'll figure it out. So yeah, with that said, are you ready to just jump in?
Yeah. You got the 7 spot here. Anything you're thinking about before we get this rolling? Anything you're hoping for?
It's gonna be. There's kind of 2 schools of thoughts in a 14-team league. One of which being you want your elite tight end because you're gonna be one of, depending on the year, 1 to 3 people that have that elite tight end, and you're gonna have that advantage over everyone. The opposite thought being, everyone's going to have a bad tight end except for 1 to 3 people. So I'll be okay. So I'm kind of in a spot where it'd be a reach for Kelsey, which is a shame. So I guess I'll probably just go, I don't know, running back or wide receiver. And then maybe Andrews slips through. I don't think so. That's my worry though. Right now is tight end, where I feel like you're positioned well to take a Kelsey or an Andrews, maybe an Andrews, if that is the path you want to take. So that's my worry right now. We'll see.
Yeah, I think running back as well is one of those just that dries up so quickly. Top end here, you still have a lot of receivers, running backs, but I think the 14 team is even more important to get, your 1 or 2 stud running backs because especially here, I'll have the 13th pick and then the 16th pick, but then won't pick again until I guess that would be somewhere in the 40s at the end of the third round. So definitely makes it a little more difficult there.
Yeah, you got a long
But
wait.
yeah, so here we go. We'll see who gets to you, Steve. Taylor goes 1, Christian McCaffrey 2, Derrick Henry 3, Dalvin Cook 4, your boy Cooper Kupp 5, who I feel like you've been getting a lot this year, and then Austin Eckler 6.
Yeah, it's a shame. I kind of got my hopes up that Eckler might squeak through.
And pretty chalk so far, it looks like, too, if we're looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, the past I think 2 drafts I've gone with Cup first, just to see like how the team played out, which is interesting because 2 of the top 3 people right now on the board are wide receivers, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So that'd be like another similar strategy, and I'm not sure that I'm willing to go down that route again. Partially because I want to, do something different. But the other part, like you said, 14-team league, running back's going to dry up quite a bit. So I think the top 2 running backs on the board here, Najee Harris and Joe Mixon, pretty close to me. Najee, I don't think going to be as good as last year without Big Ben. Not sure if the dump offs are going to be there. He might face more stock boxes. I'm just not sure. A touchdown opportunity, who knows? I'm not super confident there. Joe Mixon, great offense. Been a great guy for a while, kind of been all over from like finishing rankings. Like, I've always had problems trusting him. But I do believe him a lot this year. Do I believe in him more than Najee though? I don't know. I think I do by like a hair. It's probably gonna be something where if we do a mock draft next week, I would probably change my opinion on it. They'll be razor thin. But for today, I think I'll go Joe Mixon. I haven't drafted him at all this year. I'd be happy to grab a running back on what seems to be a really good offense. Hopefully there's no,
hopefully improved offensive line.
Yeah, ideally.
Seems
now
like they worked that.
They did lose the Super Bowl, and that tends to be a bad thing for the following year. That's been a trend for a while now. So concerns with that, but I'm not going to let that impact my decision making here. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Mr. Joe Mixon. Travis Kelce goes off the board right after me, so maybe it wasn't too early to grab him there. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Najee finally there, team 11, and then Kamara. You're on the clock.
Yeah, so puts me up here is hoping for one of those running backs or Kelce. So definitely, if I was hoping someone fell, it wasn't going to be the case here. But Kamara going ahead definitely helps. It's not someone I'm looking at here in the first couple rounds, just with the looming suspension as of right now. I'm drafting with the assumption that he will be suspended for some amount of games. And it's just going to drop him out of this top tier. But it does put 2 top receivers here in Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs. He gives them to me here, as well as 2 top running backs in Swift and Chubb. Now, given just the depth of the teams and the offenses here and of the league, I'm gonna lean the running back position first. Maybe go 2, maybe go running back and receiver. Depending, who goes here, possibly even look to reach on Mark Andrews. We'll see. But I think, if this was a real draft, I'd be more confident that Team 14 goes 2 running backs than goes 2 receivers. And I think Swift, Chubb, Adams, and Diggs all are solid here. I would rather end up with, let's say, Swift and Chubb than Adams and Diggs. Even though it'd be a great receiving core, I just want to make sure I get at least 1 top running back, since I will not be picking for a very long time. So, with that being the case, I think there's a good chance that Team 14 will go running back, receiver, and then it would allow me to get either Adams or Diggs here in the next round. So I'm going to go Swift. Swift is a guy that I'm high on. I like Chubb as well, and probably maybe a higher ceiling overall for Chubb with the offense potentially, being a lot more dynamic if Deshaun Watson plays. But if he doesn't play, I think both offenses, could be run heavy, but maybe not have a great passing attack with the quarterbacks that'll be helming them. And in that case, I think Swift probably has a better quarterback actually there, Jared Goff. The receiving options have definitely gotten better, so maybe that takes a little more off of Swift, but it was just such a good passing down back as well. Here in half PPR, they're projecting him here on Sleeper to get 510 rushing yards, 65 receptions. You just don't see that many receptions out of running backs too often, especially guys that are going to probably push for 1,000 rushing yards on top of that. So pretty easy pick here for me to get Swift, and then still have some pretty solid options here in the second round. So going with Swift first. Tyreek Hill and Josh Allen both go. So very interesting here. Team 14 wants to prioritize quarterback, getting the top quarterback on the board here, and Tyreek Hill. So this definitely opens up some options for me here. I kind of assumed I would be deciding between Diggs, Chubb, or taking a shot on Andrews. But given that Davante Adams is still here, the layup pick, if I was going receiver in the first round, he would have been it. So I'm going to take Davante Adams here, not look back. I think the Vegas offense is going to be much improved with him this year. As long as Waller doesn't drop off, that's going to be a really lethal 1-2 punch. And Derek Carr, it's all on him, but I think we've seen that he can do it in the past. I don't know that he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. With the weapons he has, I guess he has a potential. But I think top 10 is pretty solid. And that could really sustain 2 passing weapons here in Adams and Waller. So pretty happy here to start the team off with a stud running back and arguably a receiver that is top 5 potential for sure. So I'm going to lock in Davante Adams. After him, Nick Chubb, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams. Hope you weren't hoping to pair him up there, and then AJ Brown.
I am quite happy with how things have fallen here.
Yeah, I figured there's one guy that you wanted, and he did fall there.
I called out Mark Andrews, and he is the top of the ADP list right now. So I don't think I could really pass him up. He's what I wanted. He gives me that positional advantage at tight end. And I like that. Debo's there. I'm not drafting Debo at all this year. He's just too worrisome to me. On a couple different fronts. You got their new quarterback. You don't know how much passing he's going to be. He doesn't really want to be in San Francisco anymore. Like, a lot of people have forgotten that. Like, that situation hasn't played itself out yet. And I think last year's probably an outlier. Like, I don't think he, receipts too far, but I think you're probably drafting him at his ceiling, and I'm just not interested. Saquon, he's okay. Like, the problem with Saquon, I don't mind him this year, but with Aaron Jones and Fournette around the same ADP, I'll take both of them over Saquon. Now, I could roll the dice and take like an Aaron Jones or a Fournette or a Debo or whatever you want, and maybe Kyle Pitts gets back. But there's a lot of picks between me and then, and I don't see it happening. So we're gonna lock in Mark Andrews now and see what gets back to me, and then make our decisions from there. So the pick is in. Debo does go right after, Barkley, and then Pitts. So he lasted all 3 picks. Aaron Jones, Fournette, and Zeke go. Zeke with the 214. So that's a good little indicator of the size of a 14-team league, because Zeke's been going pretty firmly in the third, and he's squeaking up in the second here. Given the size of the draft, we got T. Higgins starting off the third, Pat Mahomes finally, our second quarterback, Mike Evans, Cam Akers, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, our third quarterback going off there right before me with the 306. So just to take a look at some of the options we have available to us at quarterback, Lamar, Burrow, Kyler, Jalen Hurts, Dak, Russ. Running back, we got James Conner, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs. At wide receiver, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper. And at tight end, we have Kittle, Waller, Hockenson, Schultz, Goddard. So I think it's getting a little dirtier here. Especially, we're kind of like at a tier wide receiver that I really don't like. Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Waddle. People that I all like, it's just not in love with their situation this year, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, a little more confident in him now with Baker there. but still, I just rattled off like 6 people, and I was happy with one of them. So I think I'm going to go ahead and grab another running back before it dries up further, and then maybe we'll take a look at wide receiver on the next pick here. But we got James Conner here, and that seems like an easy pick. I like David Montgomery too, but one's on a really good offense and one is not. They're both probably the sole guy on their team. I mean, James Conner's got, some solid backups. David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert. Sure, they'll take some carries, but it's not going to be any kind of firm split, I don't think. So I'm going to lock in James Conner as my second RB. Plenty of upside there. Some injury risk. Let's hope he can stay healthy. And then we'll turn the wide receiver next, depending on how things fall. So we've locked him in. Gibson goes right after. There goes George Kittle. Terry McLaurin, Team 10, going 3 wide receivers here. David Montgomery gets to 311, and then Metcalf before your pick. You are on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, David Montgomery would have been nice. That was definitely the guy that I was looking at and hoping for. And surprised he got past a couple of teams there, but Team 10 here going 3 straight wide receivers. So it should be an interesting build to the team here in a 14-teamer. Receiving core looks great, but still no running back, and they are drying up pretty quick. Now, some interesting options here. Waller still on the board. I don't know that I want to pair both Waller and Adams, but it is an interesting potential stack to have. So definitely won't go him here in this round, but potentially next round, especially with a lot of tight ends going off the board there. Outside of Waller, the only real option for me, because I'm looking running back here first, Josh Jacobs also there, would prefer not to stack that again, is going to be J.K. Dobbins. As long as he is healthy, as we talked about him, I think in the past couple episodes, I just think that offense is going to be dynamic, and he is clear and away the best running back on the team, the most dynamic. We saw it in college. We saw it even last year. I guess was it his rookie year? This will be his 3rd year, right?
Yes. Yeah, his rookie year, he had a good second half, and then last year he had the preseason.
Yeah, because he was right in the preseason. He didn't play it all last year. So I think we saw it with him. I think as these running backs start to dry up, you got Dobbins, still got Breece Hall and Josh Jacobs. Travis Etienne, I think, is a good bounce back candidate, but we do start to see that dry up a lot more here. Waddle, DJ Moore, both good options. DeAndre Johnson as well, but I think can't pass on getting just that major upside here of having Breece Hall, or sorry, of having J.K. Dobbins. So I'm going to lock J.K. Dobbins in. After him goes DeAndre Johnson and Darren Waller. Kind of thought Waller would go, and it does give me some nice flexibility here with the other options that we have, with the tight end going behind me. I've got, now going forward, and I'll be able to take the tight end with my second pick when I do eventually look to that position, but it's not going to be here. So Breece Hall's an interesting option. I do really like Breece Hall, but for me, I'd rather get something a little bit more stable, because as high as I am on him with the rookie, you still have never seen him do it in the NFL. So it's definitely something that I'd like to get a little more stable. And a guy like DJ Moore, I think, is just very stable. Even in ETN, we saw it in training camp there, and he has a little more familiarity with the offense. Second year learning the offense, familiarity with the quarterback. So those are the 2 guys that I'm debating between. I do really like Waddle as well, but with Tyreek Hill there, I just think that it's going to be tough target-wise, and unless they really increase that passing volume. So for me, and as much as I do like ETN, I'm going to lean keeping some stability here and just going with DJ Moore. I think that Baker Mayfield trade is really going to help him out. You have a very competent quarterback. I don't think anyone's going to mistake Baker for a top 10, but I think he's going to be good enough to sustain a top option, and I think that's going to be DJ Moore here. So we're going to lock in DJ Moore, keep that stability here of having 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and give me some flexibility here for the flex position and beyond. So after him, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, and Jalen Waddle.
I tell you what, Brees Hall being here complicates things.
Yeah. I mean, especially having the stability you already have at running back too, it gives you a real nice upside.
Yeah, to take that upside shot. And our flex was a complete flex, right? Wide receiver, tight end, or running back?
Yep, all three.
Yeah, so I could start him as well. At wide receiver, we do got Michael Pittman here, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, Hollywood Brown, Mike Williams. Man, that is that's tempting, but I think I will go ahead and roll the dice on it. I don't think it's something I would do in a real draft. But you know, as we say, you do these mocks to kind of experiment. That's why we do the podcast, right? To play around with things and see how things would fall. So in an ideal world, I could grab Brees Hall here. Elijah Mitchell's there too. That's pretty nice. But I can grab a high upside guy in Brees Hall, and then grab maybe I don't know maybe Mike Williams squeaks back to me. That'd be a big win, I think, right? And then from there, I don't know, Darnell Mooney, Devonta Smith, maybe. Just pre-planning. It does seem kind of silly to draft Brees Hall when Elijah Mitchell's there to me, because one's like what I think the bona fide starter, Elijah Mitchell, and Brees Hall's probably in a timeshare for a while. But Brees Hall is just so...
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, he's just such a good player. Like,
exactly.
Michael Carter just doesn't scare me at all when it comes to Brees. It's more on Brees than it is the competition there. Like, it comes down to if he's what we think he is, he's going to take that over quickly.
That's what I would think too. He's just an athletic freak. You know, measurables are just off the chart. So I think I'll go ahead and draft him. We'll roll the dice and we'll see what gets back to me here. So that pick is in. Hawkinson went right after that. Lamar Jackson, Pittman went. Let's see here. Burrow, Sutton, and then Michael Thomas goes at the end of the fourth. To start the fifth, we have Hollywood Brown, Dalton Schultz, Jerry Jeudy, Damian Harris, Allen Robinson, and Elijah Mitchell. Man. Oh, boy. If he would have made it back to me, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
It would have been really hard to pick a bench wide receiver before my first, or a bench running back before my first wide receiver. But the gamble paid off. I'm actually getting pretty lucky this draft with Mark Andrews getting here at the top of the ADP. And then here Mike Williams is top wide receiver on the board. I am fine with him being my one. And then maybe ideally we're looking, I highly doubt Brandon Cooks gets back, especially with you sitting over there. But maybe a Thielen, a Darnell Mooney, Devonta Smith, Juju, maybe Drake London. We got some other options as my second wide receiver. Maybe we turn and look at quarterback. Who knows? But Mike Williams, top offense, had a great year last year. Hopefully he could stay healthy. That's always a concern. But as my wide receiver one, that's as good as it's going to get unless I want to deal with the Hopkins suspension. With me waiting this long at wide receiver, that is not something I'm willing to do. So we'll go ahead. We will lock in Mr. Mike Williams.
Team 10.
Yeah, they continue. And I was going to call them out as a team that could do Hopkins. It kind of doesn't make sense at this point. But after me, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. To read off Team 10, they got Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, McLaurin, Godwin, and Hopkins.
I guess you could technically say you're waiting on Godwin and Hopkins. When they come back, maybe you have some ability to trade.
Yeah,
for like a stud running back.
You can only start 3 wide receivers. We got 2 wide receiver spots and a flex. So 2 of those guys you get play, and 2 of them you're probably waiting on. Hopkins definitely waiting on, and Godwin, we don't know yet, but I can't see him starting the year. So whatever, interesting decision. Miles Sanders goes, and Kyler Murray right before your pick. You are on the clock.
Yeah, it's interesting because if I'm just looking at overall players that I like, I think Brandon Cooks makes the most sense. And then possibly looking at like a Dallas Goedert maybe in the next round as the tight ends start to dry up a bit here. He's kind of one of the last ones I think that can really take that jump into a top 5, right? Maybe not guaranteed, obviously, with the guys that are there, but out of the guys remaining, one of the few I think that could take that next jump. But the running back landscape definitely drying up and definitely not really what I like to see, especially with the team behind me not having any yet. I still feel pretty good about Swift and Dobbins. Obviously, we got to make sure Dobbins is able to play this year, or this year to start the year. But you know, AJ Dillon is kind of the one guy that gives me a little bit of pause. I think if I really want to go running back, I'm sure I could get Kareem Hunt in the next round. I think that's a solid third guy to get, but AJ Dillon is the one that I think he got some major upside with, and could be that 50-50 split there with Aaron Jones. And it comes down to, do I like AJ Dillon more than a Kareem Hunt? Tough. And you think you're probably going to have a better offense there in Green Bay, right, than you're going to have in Cleveland. So I don't think I've had any AJ Dillon this year. So they'll go take a shot on AJ Dillon and leave the flexibility here for either Cooks, Goddard, or something else here. So go with the third running back, AJ Dillon. And as expected, Team 14 takes their first running back here with Kenneth Walker. And then Darnell Mooney next off there. So leaves the tight ends here. And as I look through the landscape, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that don't have tight end. So it comes down to how many I think are going to go tight end between now and then. Goddard, top guy here, but you got Dawson Knox, Ertz, Freiermuth, Gesicki, Hunter Henry, Komet. So it definitely dries up there. It's just, do I let Brandon Cooks go? And I just don't think I can pass up Brandon Cooks. As much as I do like Goddard, and I think there's upside there, there's just the depth in this league is going to be rough, and I think it's just so important to load up on those positions that you can start multiple of, and that running back and receiver, and just being able to start off with Swift, Dobbins, and Dillon at running back, as well as Adams, Moore, and Cooks at receiver. I just think it gives me too much flexibility here. There, too much to pass up. So we'll go with Cooks, and then kind of see what quarterbacks and tight ends get back to me here in the next round. But at this point, you're kind of punting those positions from, thinking you're going to be able to have like a top guy for sure. So Brandon Cooks will be the pick. After him, Treylon Burks, Adam Thielen, Dallas Goedert, as we aforementioned, Jalen Hurts, and Rashad Bateman right before you. That would have been a nice one there.
Yeah, it would have been. Also removed any temptation from Jalen Hurts. So that's a shame. We'll take a look at the running backs, just give them a peek. Kareem Hunt's still here. Cordell Patterson, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Chase Edmonds. So this kind of tier, there's some solid options, especially here in the 6th round. They're fine. Wide receiver, we're looking at Drake London, Juju, Devonta Smith, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Tyler Lockett, Hunter Renfrow, Gabe Davis, Brandon Ayuk. Not an ideal grouping of people for the situation that I'm in. I would really like London as like a what I would assume would be like a target monster. It's only him and Pitts. Mm-hmm. But as my second wide receiver, I'd have to rely on him immediately. And in rookies, they tend to take some time. Take half a year, 4 games. Like, it's going to take something. He's not going to come out of the gate, be amazing, most likely. Juju's a pretty big roll of the dice. Devonta Smith, I think, is probably the outlier here and the one I'm going to take. So we'll circle back on him. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, solid options. Elijah Moore, I'd probably be more comfortable with. He's probably the second option for me here, but still feels pretty risky. We only got 1 year of service from him, and a lot of his breakout games were not with Zach Wilson. So some concerns there. I do like him better than the other options, but I think Devonta Smith, as a second-year guy, we saw some good stuff from him last year. Maybe not from a fantasy standpoint. He was fine. Not like a great breakout year or anything, but just on the field, he looked good. Hopefully the addition of AJ Brown helps him. I've seen some Jalen Hurts concerns recently, which is kind of concerning. But I think the talent will win out. So we'll lock him in. I'm okay with him as my wide receiver too. and then we'll see what gets back to me here. We had Juju go off right after me. Drake London, Dak, Dawson Knox, Garrett Wilson, Russell Wilson to end the 6th. To start the 7th, we got Tyler Lockett, Cordell Patterson, Chase Edmonds, Elijah Moore, Tony Pollard, Kareem Hunt. Almost got back to me here. So running backs now, since most of them that I read off are gone. Singletary, James Cook, Rashad Penny, Melvin Gordon, Michael Carter. At wide receiver, we're looking at Renfro, Gabe Davis, Ayuk, Chris Olave, Robert Woods, Chase Claypool. And because I don't have one yet, we'll take a glance at quarterback. We got Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Trey Lance, Derek Carr. So some solid options. I'd like Tom Brady, but I feel like I need another wide receiver. And I think Gabe Davis is the one that I am wanting here. Normally, I would probably, not normally, but if this was last year, I'd probably be going with someone like Renfro because he's a safe, good volume guy that could plug in at my 2 spot if Devonta Smith didn't pan out. But with Adams coming there, he kind of concerns me a little bit. He falls down the pecking order. Ayuk at San Francisco, I like, but everything I said about Debo kind of applies to him. He's just, you don't know what that offense is going to look like. Chris Olave, I've picked in the past. I do like him, just not my situation. Robert Woods wouldn't be a bad option, I don't think, in my situation, provided he's healthy and the injury doesn't mean he's just washed. So there is some concern there, but not a bad option for me who waited at wide receiver. But Gabe Davis, to me, presents a lot of upside. I would think a relative amount of safety. He's on a high-powered offense. A lot of his competition left. So I would assume he's pretty safe, but there's definitely words I could be eating come mid-season. But we'll lock him in. Brings myself in line with 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers, so I can kind of do what I want with my next pick. We'll see what gets back to me. Tom Brady will not. He goes off right after me. Devin Singletary, James Cook, Aaron Rodgers, Zach Ertz.
Yeah, so a couple guys I was looking at there, the quarterback position, starting to dry up a bit here. And there is just really a few guys left that I like, and one that I really like, our boy Matt Stafford. So he will, in all likelihood, be my 8th round pick, given that Team 14 already has their quarterback. I will gamble. It is a 14-team league, so wouldn't put it past the team to take him. But given that they only have 1 running back, I think it's a safe bet that they are going to take a running back here. So tight ends, just to take a look, we still got Freiermuth, Gesicki, Kmet, Henry, Gronkowski. So at this point, I think we're pretty much punting the position. Freiermuth would be, the potential option here, but with all but 1, 2, 3 teams not having a tight end, I think I can wait, even if a few teams take a couple extras. Worst case, I'm in that Alvarado, Smith, Fant, and Njoku range, and I'll looking to the scrap heap for tight end, each week. But if that's the only thing that I have to do because of the depth that I'm getting from other positions here, I'll take that. So with that being said, I think it comes down to looking at a receiver. Like an Ayuk upside, or like the safety of a Robert Woods, or just getting another running back, because there is a position that is just going to dry up very, very quickly, and taking one of the last, what I see is like 50-50 options here in Melvin Gordon. So I'm going to take Melvin. I think probably ends up being maybe a 60-40, but there's going to be times where Melvin's going to be more relevant, and you just need the depth here at the position. So I'm going to take Melvin here with my first pick. After him, Rashad Penny and Brandon Ayuk go. And next, I'm going to lock in my quarterback here with Matt Stafford, get him out of the way, and then probably punt the tight end position unless something good comes up here in the near future. Anything you, sir, are hoping for, Steve?
No, it's probably time to look at the quarterback. So hopefully maybe Trey Lance gets back to me. If he doesn't, then I don't know what I'll do. We'll see, but it's probably time, which is a shame because I'd like to add another running back or something, but it's got to be done. So it'll probably be Trey Lance.
All right. So after it takes Stafford, Team 12 goes the second tight end there, and Mike Gesicki. Team 11 does not take their tight end. Chris Olave, James Robinson, Deshaun Watson, second quarterback for Team 9, and then Pat Fryermuth, second tight end for Team 8. So tight ends are going.
Yeah, I feel like I dodged a bit of a bullet there. I don't know in what world Deshaun Watson is being drafted above Trey Lance or Derek Carr or like a number of people still on the board right now.
Solid ones.
Yeah, I really, I think I should have got burned and didn't. So, Trey Lance presents a lot of upside, so he's going to be my guy here. That one's a pretty easy pick. After that, Ramondre Stevenson goes, Michael Carter, Hunter Renfrow, Robert Woods, Christian Watson, Kadarius Toney. They round out the 8th to start the 9th. Claypool, Kirk, Gallup, Sky Moore, Derek Carr, and Isaiah Spiller. So I am back on the clock. As a reminder of my team, I got Mixon, Connor, and Breece Hall at running back. At wide receiver, Mike Williams, Devonta Smith, and Gabe Davis, Trey Lance, and then Mark Andrews at tight end. So running backs here, we got Ronald Jones, Dameon Pierce, Alexander Mattison, Rashad White, Naeem Hines. At wide receiver, Jameson Williams, Alan Lazard, Tyler Boyd, Russell Gage, MVS, Kenny Galladay, Jarvis Landry. So this is a tough spot, and I wish I wasn't in the middle of the draft because I'm looking at Alan Lazard thinking he'd be perfect for my team. I kind of rolled the dice a little bit with Devonta Smith and Gabe Davis, and Alan Lazard, I think, represents safety plus upside, as does Gage to a degree, neither of which would get back to me. At running back, I think Ronald Jones is the top guy, and then there's a drop off, which is a shame. But I feel like I gotta grab that wide receiver to make myself just feel a little bit safer. Which seems silly because you put the two positions up against each other, and you should always be going running back. But
you only really need two of each to hit, and then you just need a third.
Exactly.
Them,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's the same kind of like I told you, Ronald Jones looks like there's a tier break. It's Dameon Pierce, Mattson, Rashad White, Naeem Hines, Dale Henderson, Tyler Algier, Mack, Kent Gainwell. Like they're fine. McKissick's down there. The same
Does that
thing.
Give you any like buyer's remorse of Hall and Elijah Mitchell? Like, would you feel more confident that you had your flex locked up if you had Elijah Mitchell there in the 4th?
No. I think it might. No, I'm looking back at the board. I don't know if I regret anything. I might, if I were to do something, I probably would have swapped Breece Hall with Michael Pittman. Just think about what I was looking at the time. Maybe Sutton. And then if that happens, Mike Williams becomes probably like Miles Sanders. Like that doesn't make me feel any better.
Yeah.
Maybe if, Elijah Mitchell went one pick before me, if he made it to me and you would say I'd feel better with Pittman or Sutton and Elijah Mitchell, probably, but it's not, it's close. It's not like a game changer. So no, I'm looking back. I don't think I regret anything. It's just, when you draft tight end early, these are the struggles you run into sometimes. Like I got to remember, like I have an elite advantage at tight end.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here still no tight end. So
yeah, you're doomed.
Definitely have that at least that huge advantage at tight end versus
so that's what happens.
Trading away the depth. That's really what it is.
100%. Like if my second round pick was, Aaron Jones, for instance, or
then Breece Hall becomes Michael Pittman, and then you've got pretty good depth across the board.
Exactly, or maybe I grab Evans early, and I'm more comfortable, wide receiver or something like that. Like that. That's really what happened, which I think people can relate to when we draft tight end early, especially in a deep league like this. So I'm going Alan Lazard. He makes me feel safer at the wide receiver position. Ronald Jones, fine for what he would be a running back for me, but he does he kind of makes me feel safer, but I also know that he could just not be anything important. So Alan Lazard definitely has a role. Locking him in. Jameson Williams goes, Dameon Pierce, Kirk Cousins, Hunter Henry, another tight end off the board for you there, Will, and then Alexander Mattson. You're on the clock.
Yeah, and it's solid because I still do like both Komet and Alberto. So both options I think are solid here for me and with my next pick. But it gives me some pause because there's a couple of other skill guys I like. Ronald Jones still sitting here. Feels like really, really good value, even though I've already got 4 running backs. Ronald Jones is my fifth running back there in a situation where some people are saying he could, be the lead back. I think it's probably still more of a split backfield and Clyde's, the one, but there's, people that are saying that it could be Ronald Jones. And then just the safety of Russell Gage helps as well. He's expected to have a big role, especially early on with, not having Chris Godwin likely to start the year. So those are both interesting options here for me. Do I risk, trying to get both of them and, punting all the way down to an Njoku or Higbee or Tunyon? So that could be the option here. We'll see, with the punt, but I think I'm going to go with the running back here first of Ronald Jones. I feel really good about the 3 receivers I have and just getting that depth at the running back position. Another guy that I think is pretty solidly in a 50-50, split with Ronald Jones. So going to lock in Jones here first. After him, Gronkowski and Tyler Boyd, interestingly enough. Still a couple of tight ends that I like here, and most teams already have one. I think it's just 2 others don't. And a couple of them actually have 2. So I would venture to guess that, the guys here in Kmet and Alberto are gone, but I'd be okay waiting again. And like I said, just at this point, I've already waited, so I don't think Kmet's that much of a leap over a Tunyon or a Hayden Hurst later. So I'm going to continue to press the advantage that I have at running back and receiver and not try to kind of pivot away from that and stop the bleeding at tight end. And I'm going to punt it here, at least one more round. I've only got 3 picks after this. I'm going to go Russell Gage, guy that I've talked about, early on in the offseason. He's set to have a really big year. It's, from all the reports, it seems like Brady, was very vocal in wanting to get him on the team this year. And in all likelihood, Godwin is not going to be starting the year on the team. So I think there's a good chance that no Godwin and at this point, no Gronk. Gage should be able to step up and possibly be the number 2 weapon in the offense to start the year. So I'm going to lock him in and really get, some major depth, having 5 running backs, 4 receivers here, and Matt Stafford that I'm all really comfortable with. So locking in Russell Gage. After him, George Pickens, MVS, Kenny Galladay, Cole Kmet, and Naeem Hines.
Yeah, shame Cole Kmet didn't get back to you. That would have been nice. But it was a long wait.
Yeah, not going to happen. Even Alberto would be nice, but I doubt he gets there.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. So looking for me, we'll read wide receiver because I'm not going to focus there. We'll get them out of the way. Landry, Dotson, Rondell Moore, Jacoby Myers, Tim Patrick, DJ Chark, Devontae Parker. Fine options, a couple of them, but I want another running back. Rashad White is not the answer. Darrell Henderson, not really. Tyler Algier, fine. It's a fine gamble to take. I don't want him. Not in my situation. I'm just not feeling it right now. Marlon Mack is he's not a bad play. I'm just not sure if he's a starter, that's a good depth play that I need, but is he? And is he any good? We don't know. It's the 3 after that I think interests me the most. We got Gainwell, a solid year in Philly. Maybe could take a step up with an overall offense that should be better. JD McKissick, who just catches balls, man. That's all he does. A PPR darling. And this is half point, right?
Half point PPR.
Yeah. So that does hurt him a little bit. But still, a solid depth option. And Raheem Mostert, I think is too low. We don't know what his role is going to be outside of the Mostert role, probably, as they import the San Francisco offense over. I'm not sure if he's healthy. What is he planning on starting the year? I'm paying attention to that. I feel like if he was, he should be a little bit higher than where he is, but I don't know. It's hard to say. And he's got a long injury history as well. So I think McKissick is the one I feel safest with right now. I've taken a fair number of gambles, I feel. So I don't really want to take another one on Gainwell. And I think McKissick to me is the safer option. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there. No idea what I'm going to do with my next pick. Landry goes off the board. There goes Albert O. There, Will. Tua goes. Daryl Henderson. Irv Smith goes. Justin Fields goes. Rounds out the 10th. Rashad White starts the 11th. Dotson, Rondell Moore, Noah Fant goes. Tim Patrick, Jacoby Myers. Man, should I be looking at another tight end here, Will? Maybe grab a backup? Who do we got here for you? Njoku's there, Will.
There's still a few that I don't mind.
Higbee, Stacks.
Njoku, Higbee, Tunyon, Hurst is solid.
Gerald
Even
Everett,
I think, is a solid upside.
Now,
and you got, like, your Hooper way down there.
We have talked about him, and I have completely forgot about this, but Tunyon might not be starting the year and actually playing. He was hurt at the end of the year. I heard it on the Ballers mentioned it.
Interesting. Yeah, it looks like his info here says 3 days ago up in the air for week 1. So yeah, it looks like he's rehabbing on the side during OTAs.
Yeah, it could be a problem. Just, as someone looking at tight end, just passing the info along. So for me here, almost all those running backs I mentioned are still there. Most of those wide receivers are still there. So I'm going to grab up a wide receiver that I have liked and have picked multiple times in Devontae Parker. I like to think he represents some sort of safety with a decent amount of upside if him and Mac Jones click and Mac can take a step forward. But I've been grabbing him up. I do look at these running backs and think, well, now, McKissick, with me feeling safer at McKissick, I could roll the dice on Mac or Gainwell or Mostert, but maybe one of them will get back to me. I happen to know that one of the picks after me is going to be tight end. So that's one pick I won't have to worry about. Maybe they will slip on through there. So we're going to lock in Mr. Devontae Parker. Marlon Mack does not sneak through. He goes right afterwards. Tyler Algier goes, and Njoku goes, another tight end off the list for Will, DJ Chark, and Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, so back to me here, and still, as I mentioned, still a few tight ends I like. Higbee, Tunyon, as you mentioned. Hayden Hurst, I think, is a solid option there in Cincinnati. We got Gerald Everett, Austin Hooper still there, Trey McBride way down. So definitely not going one here. Going to look to those onesie positions, and there's just not a ton of receivers I really like. KJ Osborne, but not a spot I would take him here, maybe the last round. So probably I'm going to be done taking receiver at this point. But still a couple of running backs on the board that interest me. Kenny Gainwell is one that I think is going to be the pick here. But Mostert's still on the board. Khalil Herbert, Darrell Williams, and one that we don't usually do here, but I think in my case would make sense, Gus Edwards, another guy that, aiming to come back, from injury, but, given that I have Dobbins, I don't usually like to get the handcuff, but here in a 14-team league, when they're probably not going to be available, I would not mind handcuffing him here. So I'm going to go with Gainwell first, and then, we'll see, if I want to go tight end or Gus, but I've got some flexibility here. So Gainwell first off the board. After him goes Mostert and Mecole Hardman. So still got Higbee, still got Tunyon here. The question is, do I think Gus gets back? And I think there's definitely a chance. It's pretty far down, but I don't think I want to risk it. I think there's a bunch of tight ends. None of them stick out more than others. So I'm going to punt to the last round here, and I'm going to get a handcuff here in 14-team league, and I'm going to go Gus Edwards. Load up at running back. After him, Alec Pierce, Tyler Higbee, Jameis Winston, Khalil Herbert, and Matt Ryan. So some double quarterbacks going.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Waiting on the tight end. Unfortunately, none of my 3 running backs made it back to me. They'd even make it out of the round. So
who was that you were hoping for?
It was Matt Gainwell, Mostert.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would have been nice. So we'll take a peek down here at the running back position. I got Mixon, Connor, Brees, and McKissick. So I definitely could use another. We have Darrell Williams over in Arizona, who probably would be an option if I didn't have Connor. This is a handcuff at this point, which isn't bad. Like handcuffing Connor is not a bad decision, really. Jamal Williams is there, who was more highly drafted last year and is kind of left for dead this year. Chuba Hubbard, Davis Pierce is there if you want to take a gamble on him in San Francisco. Zamir White, Brian Robinson, who's being talked up a little bit. Chris Carson, probably not playing. Mark Ingram. There we go. That is the guy that I want. I would assume starting running back for the first 6 games, however many, Kamara's suspended for. Can't see anybody taking that role away from him. Was okay for fantasy last year when he played on the Saints. So we're going to lock him in, grab myself a depth running back there. Let's see what tight ends go off the board here for Will. Hayden Hurst goes off right after me. David Bell, Beckham goes. Gerald Everett. That's a shame. That was a good one. Mac Jones, Sarah Williams. There goes Tunyon, Crowder, Tolbert, Van Jefferson, Evan Ingram, Zach Wilson. So I'm on my last pick here. Kind of do what I want. Are there any quarterbacks of interest? Tannehill, Wentz, Daniel Jones, Kenny Pickett. No. If Fields was here, maybe I'd roll the dice on him. Probably not. I don't think Baker would be better than Trey Lance, even if Trey Lance isn't that good.
It'd be like a stash of Willis.
Yeah, you could stash a Willis.
Turns around here in the off season or as we lead up, but
doubtful. So yeah, probably not there. Running backs, we still got basically, all the same people that I mentioned before, just not Darrell Williams. So Davis Pierce is interesting. Brian Robinson, maybe. Wide receiver, Curtis Samuel. Again, highly drafted last year, left for dead this year. John Mechie, Robbie Anderson, KJ Osborne, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Julio, drafted before last week, I think it was. Sammy Watkins is here if you want to place your bet there. Who else here? We got Marvin Jones, Joshua Palmer, AJ Green, Will Fuller. Good call out. I think
throwback.
I think
since we've seen him.
For real, I think the Ballers brought him up on an episode of, kind of in that same vein that I mentioned, Julio. Like, he's going to land somewhere. Fuller has actual upside. Chenault, KJ Hamler, some people like. Paris Campbell running with the ones. At tight end, is there anyone I want to snipe from Will here? Logan Thomas is here. Austin Hooper, Trey McBride, Devin Taysom Hill, Uzama. No. Well, Cox is interesting, but no. I will pass on that, and I will grab KJ Osborne. We both like him in Minnesota to be something interesting. If Thielen is old and busted, which, we have no real indication that's the case, but maybe Osborne steps up. So we'll go ahead. We'll lock him in there as my last pick. Davis Price goes after me. Jamal Williams, Chuba goes, Curtis Samuel, John Mechie. You are on the clock with your final pick.
Yeah, so tight end here. You still got Logan Thomas, Austin Hooper, McBride, top guys here. The only guys I'm really looking at, because at this point, I'm just looking for someone who I think I can use in week 1. So that's going to be looking at your Austin Hooper in Tennessee. It should be someone that gets some looks, as it's really just him, Robert Woods, and a couple of younger guys, big time rookie and Traylon Burks, but there's not a ton else there. So I think he, probably makes the most sense. If I wanted to, look for other veterans, Uzama's interesting, but he's been held out of camp, and I've Tyler Conklin there, so I'm not sure exactly who's going to be the guy. The only other one that is interesting, you kind of called out there, Mo Alley Cox. I think he's got some upside as a potential low end one, probably touchdown dependent guy. So I think I'm going to go with the volume here and take an Austin Hooper, but mostly with the caveat as well that so many teams here have 2 tight ends, and going into the year they may keep both, but there's a very high likelihood that teams are going to get injury riddled and not going to be able to afford the luxury of holding on to 2 tight ends. So while you may come out of the draft with a very low tight end, in all likelihood there's going to be tight ends that are an upgrade from Austin Hooper that are available in the first week or 2 here. And just the depth that I have at running back and receiver, I don't think I need to grab those. I can, maybe it would be a luxury if I can get someone off the waiver heap, in week 1, week 2, somebody that pops, but I've got flexibility there. And can get a guy in Austin Hooper that I'm confident to plug in there for week 1 to get a few points, and then look to potentially upgrade that throughout the season. So locking in Austin Hooper here, and Mr. Irrelevant himself is Austin Hooper's new best friend in Ryan Tannehill. Apparently building some chemistry here, so some of the news. So back to back to end the draft.
Yeah, there we go. So we'll read off our teams. I went with the 7th pick, so I'll go first here. Quarterback, Trey Lance. Running backs, I got Joe Mixon, James Conner, Breece Hall, J.D. McKissick, and Mark Ingram. At wide receiver, Mike Williams, Devonta Smith, Gabe Davis, Alan Lazard, Devontae Parker, and KJ Osborne. And finally, a tight end, Mark Andrews. I like it. Definitely some risk here in these middle rounds. Devonta Smith, Gabe Davis, Trey Lance. That is a 3 picks in a row that have some risk. But I think more on the side of confident than risky, at least for Devonta Smith and Trey Lance. Gabe Davis, definitely up in the air, especially who you talk to. But strong 3 running backs there. Mark Andrews, we were talking before, gives me positional advantage. Mike Williams, confidence, my 1. Alan Lazard, good depth there. So overall, I'm liking it. I definitely look at it and get concerned, but again, 14-team league, that's going to happen. Will, in the 13 spot, what do you think of your team?
Yeah, so we've got Matt Stafford at quarterback. Running back, we've got DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Melvin Gordon, Ronald Jones, Kenneth Walker, and Gus Edwards as a handcuff. And we have receiver, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, and Russell Gage. And then Austin Hooper at tight end. So overall, pretty happy. I mean, definitely happy waiting at quarterback and coming away with Matt Stafford. Tight end, as we talked about there toward the end of the draft, get a guy that I can plug in week 1. But more than confident that I will be ending the season with a different tight end, and in all likelihood an upgrade, just because someone had to make a move, whether it's bye week, whether it's injuries, or just lack of depth. I think there'll be other tight ends available. But I think really the meat of the team here is the depth at running back. DeAndre Swift, I think it can lock in as that wide receiver running back 1. But having, your J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Melvin, all guys I think that you'll be able to play. Ronald Jones has a shot, as well as Gainwell. And then just having, Gus Edwards there as some insurance there for Dobbins. And then, kind of the high end wide receiver. Having good receivers and not having to take a lot of them allowed me to get the depth that I have at running back. So Devontae Adams, lock and load. I think DJ Moore is going to be about the same as well. But Brandon Cooks gives me some really good stability to plug him in at wide receiver 2 if I for some reason have to. And then Russell Gage, I think, is a solid third receiver as well. So I've got, from what I can tell here, 2 and a flex, I think, locked in at receiver. And then at this point, it's just, hey, making sure one of these other running backs hit. If a second one hits, great. I've got, potentially a better flex than a stable receiver. So definitely some stability there, and potential to maybe move out and make a trade for a tight end as well.
Yeah, so thinking of the tight end position, I'm looking here, Will. So you had an opportunity to draft Mark Andrews. You could have got Waller instead of Dobbins. You could have got Goddard instead of Cooks. You could have drafted Gesicki. Are any of those moves something like, looking back, you'd say, yeah, I'd rather have Mark Andrews instead of Devontae Adams, or I'd rather have Waller instead of Dobbins? Is there any regrets with any of those positions? It's kind of hard to do a swap, because you can't say like, oh yeah, I'd rather have Waller instead of Dobbins, and then with my last pick, I would have Chuba Hubbard. Yeah. Like, I don't know that's not a good trade-off, but like, would you have done anything differently looking back?
Yeah, I mean, I think Adams is clearly above Mark Andrews, so I definitely wouldn't have done that. And because I'd had Adams there, I mean, maybe you could say if I took Diggs instead of Adams and then took Waller instead of DJ Moore, it would definitely make the argument there. I think that could have solidified the tight end position, and then I probably would have had to go wide receiver after with AJ Dillon. So maybe I go Cooks and Smith or Bateman there to get some depth. So definitely some options there. Had I gone Diggs over Adams, but it's just, I think there's just that huge positional advantage there of having a Devontae Adams on the team, especially getting him in the second round. And just the kind of floor I have at wide receiver, I think really is beneficial with the depth that I have at running back. It kind of plays off each other really well.
Yeah, that is fair. So that's going to wrap up the draft. Tune in next week for another mock, and imagine we're going back to a 12-teamer, given we just did a 14 and a 10 back-to-back. So probably go back to the normal. Sound good, Will?
Yeah, sounds good to me. 14 teamers are tough, but definitely test your metal, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get back to the normal next week. Until then, folks, trust your board.